what it is. It's your guy, Rhett, Butler, and this. Well, this is that pretty left hook. Hitting you in your goddamn liver full. Yeah, baby. What I want to do now is take you through something we like to call jabs. First jab, Israel Adesanya, the last style bender. This guy is hella petty. But we love it. Why do we love it? Israel Adesanya defeated, finally, the boogeyman in his life, the demon in his life, the monkey, I dare say it, on his back, Alex Pereira, at UFC 287 in Miami. But what makes him so goddamn petty? Well, I'm going to tell you, man. Israel Adesanya, not only did he beat Alex Pereira in the second round with a flurry of right hands and a little lefts and rights, and then he hit him with the hammer fist on the ground to finish the guy, but Israel Adesanya made sure to do an imaginary bow and arrow and shot 1, 2, 3 arrows into the body, allegedly, not real, into the body of Alex Pereira as a miming action. You know, Israel Adesanya is a whole breakdancer. He mimed it for the 3 losses he's taken to Alex Pereira, 2 of which were in kickboxing, 1 of which was in the UFC. His last fight where he lost his title. Now he's regained the title. But that's not the pettiest that he's been. Then after that, after he strolled around the cage to let you know what his name is, he saw Alex Pereira's son in the audience crying over his daddy's loss. And Israel remembered there was a time when Alex Pereira knocked Israel out in kickboxing in Sao Paulo, Brazil, which Alex Pereira is Brazilian, and his son ran up in the ring, hit himself over the head in a fake motion with a bottle, and then fell on the ground like a body to say, "My daddy slumped you." So Israel took the time to look into the crowd. Now, mind you, we're talking about a whole arena. He looked around the arena and he found Alex Pereira's son. And he said, "Hey!" and laid on the ground. Slumped. Israel is petty as hell. Then he went on to say, "Yeah, I'm petty, bro. I wanted to let that kid know what it is. I slumped your daddy because you had to clown me in your home country. So now I'm going to clown you." Petty as petty can get. Israel Adesanya, salute to you, man. As petty goes, you the champ. Now I want to talk about UFC 287 in general. Like I said, Israel Adesanya got his belt back. Salute, my man. That's official. The interesting thing about that fight is that, again, Israel, most people probably thought he was going to lose. He already lost twice in kickboxing, once in MMA, but Israel didn't lose. He knocked Boy out, in fact, right? So it wasn't just a win. He knocked Boy out. Now, I'm going to tell you why that's so amazing. Because, first of all, the UFC was losing stars. The co-main event was George Masvidal versus Gilbert Burns. George Masvidal lost the unanimous decision and said, "I'm retiring." He already was setting the seeds up to have another post-fight career by promoting fights under his game-bred boxing banner, and he had the last fight he did was very high profile. It was Roy Jones versus Anthony Pettis. Roy Jones lost that boxing match, but it's showing that George Masvidal knows how to raise capital. Anthony Pettis got like $650,000. Roy Jones got like, I don't know, $700,000 or something like that. And then that's not counting the undercard, or I should say the co-main event, which was Jacare Souza versus Vitor Belfort. They both got a couple $100,000, I believe. George is aggregating capital. He's getting that money behind his name, man. Put some respect on that man's name. And he did the fight in Fiserv Arena in Milwaukee. So I'm saying that to say the following. From bare knuckle fighter in the streets of Miami in the backyards to UFC superstar to promoter. Good job, man. Job well done. We ain't mad at you. Political beliefs aside, that's your business. But job well done. Salute to that man. UFC's losing stars, though. That man is a star for the UFC. He sells tickets. We don't know what's going on with Conor McGregor, right? Obviously, Ronda Rousey been left. She's a whole WWE person, and we don't even know if she's going to be doing that. I think her contract's coming up soon to be completed. UFC's losing stars. These new guys, Volkanovski, this one, that one. You don't really know these guys. I mean, we're not mad at these guys. It's just, the UFC was really better adept in finding bigger personalities than just straight athletes. So I think what's happening right now with the UFC is the talent pool isn't attracting the fan base in the same way. So the UFC is pumping the fights. We get it. Not a bad thing. And then UFC was smart enough, as we talked about in our last episode. Endeavor, who owns the UFC, the parent company, was smart enough, as we said in the last episode, to purchase WWE. So now they have the real and the fake, the yin and the yang, which hopefully will have some kind of crossover components and make everything happen. But again, these are the things that are going to allow the game to survive. But you need talent. You need the talent. Without the talent, you ain't got nothing. Israel Adesanya, he's still here. Now he's a champion again. But here's the problem. Israel has already run through the division at 185. He's a middleweight champion. He's already run through the division. So now you got to ask yourself, who's next for Israel Adesanya? Well, I'm going to tend to agree with some other pundits in the game that Israel's next fight is probably going to be against Alex Pereira. Why? Because now in the UFC, they're 1-1, right? Alex got the first one off. Israel got the second one off. So now you got to think, let's have a tiebreaker, because there's nobody else in the UFC right now at this very moment that could really vie for his title. Now you could say Khamzat Chimaev. He's polarizing. He has a good name. People loving on him, whatever. But he hasn't really fought. I mean, I'm not going to say he hasn't fought anybody, but he's not at that level. Now, if you did it, it would just be because he's built some marquee value for the diehard fans. But beyond that, he hasn't proven himself. But I will say this, because, Izzy's petty, so he's gotten on as disrespectful. Israel Adesanya said there's another guy that he wants to deal with. And I had never really heard of this guy, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to be honest with you. I never heard of this guy. But Israel heard of this guy. Israel said this guy is, somebody that if he puts himself together, he wouldn't mind putting a pause on him. And that guy's name is Dricus du Plessis. Dricus du Plessis. This guy is a middleweight, and he is from South Africa. Now, mind you, Dricus du Plessis is not black. He is born and raised in Africa. But he is not a black man. He is a South African or South African, I believe is what they call themselves. Or I don't know if that's some apartheid shit. Now they don't do that no more. Whatever that is, right? But Dricus du Plessis said, I want this guy. And he heard him throwing a sneak shot at him once Israel won at the press conference against Alex Pereira. He heard it, and he was like, oh, okay, I see you. Israel said, fuck, I don't want to give Duplessis no clout. This is what he said at the UFC 287 post-fight press conference. I want to whoop his ass so bad. I want to do it in South Africa or Nigeria, but he's got to do work. He's got to do something. Show me something so I can whoop that ass and I can show you history. I'll remind you, because you've got to choose your words wisely when you speak on people that have come before you, people that have paved the way for you. You've got to pick your words wisely. Now, what is it that Duplessis said about Israel that got him so riled up? And this is what he said. By the way, Duplessis is only 5-0 in the UFC. He's only had 5 fights, but he's 19-2 in MMA. He's fought mainly in South Africa. He said at the UFC 285 media day, so 2 fights before the fight that Izzy just won on the weekend, he said, this is Duplessis, did those belts ever go to Africa? He said this to the reporters. As far as I know, they came to America and New Zealand. I'm going to take a belt to Africa. I'm the African fighter in the UFC. Myself and Cameron, we breathe African air. We wake up in Africa every day. We train in Africa. We're African born. We're African raised. We still reside in Africa. We train out of Africa. That's an African champion, and that's who I'll be. He's talking about his teammate Cameron Simon. Simon, Saimon. If I'm pronouncing the name wrong, it's your fault, my bad. But, but Cameron Simon and Dricus Duplessis are both from South Africa or Africa. And yeah, they're white guys. So they letting Israel know, like, I know you and Usman said y'all the first African-born UFC champions, but y'all don't live here, bro. Y'all was born and then you was raised somewhere else. We know Israel lived, I believe, in Asia for a while. Now he's in New Zealand. Duplessis is feeling some type of way about this. But Israel's talking about, you got to get your weight up to see me. His exact words were, if he does work, meaning Duplessis, and I pray to God he keeps winning, I will gladly drag his carcass across South Africa. Now, I'm going to tell you something. Duplessis got a nice little resume starting to rise up here, baby. Like, I ain't going to lie. So, when he first got in the UFC, in 2020, he knocked the kid out in the first round, somebody named Marcus Perez. Fought another kid the following year, knocked him out in the second round, given performance of the night for knocking out Trevin Giles. Then he started stepping up into people that have a name from the past. Diehards with no casuals wouldn't. Brad Tavares, Bad Brad. He won unanimous decision against veteran Bad Brad Tavares. Not a bad thing. At UFC 276 in 2022. Then he did something that got the attention of everybody. He beat Darren Till at UFC 282, and that was at the end of last year, by submission, but he did a face crank. It sounds hella painful, by the way. Don't do that shit to me. Did a face crank to Darren Till. And then his last fight in March 2023 of this year, the fight was stopped, UFC 285, where a corner stopped the fight against him and Derek Brunson in the second round. Derek Brunson, Darren Till, those last two, those are stripes. Absolutely. These guys are bad dudes. These guys don't play at games at all. So for him to beat those two says something. And I guarantee you this. He's now had, let's count it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fights in the UFC. Well, you know what happened in the sixth fight of the UFC for Israel Adesanya? He fought for the title and won. Sixth fight for Israel Adesanya in the UFC, he fought for the title and won. So, Israel's talking big shit. He don't want dude to step up out of the third, or he allegedly does. But here's the thing. All this dude got to do is fight one more person that's nice, or at least got a name from formerly being nice. And he should get the title shot. Now, I'm sure Israel, if he accepts, will probably be asked to do a rematch against Alex Pereira. If victorious, and they give this kid Duplessis another situation before him with a name, it's looking like an all-Africa battle, baby. And you know the UFC's trying to break into Africa. Africa is the last frontier when it comes to combat sports on a global level in terms of hosting fights there and doing crazy. Not since Don King, did Rumble in the Jungle and all of that, have people been, doing fights over there. So on a major level, I'm talking about major, not to say in general. We know Africa does fights all the time, on every country in the continent. I'm talking about on an international, global scale where the whole world is watching. It ain't been done since them days. So UFC's trying to go, especially on the MMA front. So UFC's trying to go make it crack. Israel Adesanya, Dricus Duplessis might be that situation. You never know. Israel said he's with it if boy keeps proving himself, and you clearly know Dricus is with it because he wants to try to dethrone. We love it. Israel, stay petty, baby. I love it. This kid is sunning children, making them cry, acting like he's slumping their daddy. He's the worst and the best at the same goddamn time. I don't know if your nails had the French tips on them this time, but bruh, if they didn't, treat it like superstition. Leave it alone. Man, it's your guy, Rhett Butler, man. You know what it is. Shout out to the whole UpOnGame.network, man. Go log on to that. UpOnGame.network. Subscribe. Follow the movement. Shout out to my whole Up On Game familia, man. My man Dustin, Vito, Blanco, Cardo, and of course, the big homie and my brother, LeVar Arrington. Check me out at Pretty Left Hook Podcast on the IG. at Rhett E. Butler on IG and Twitter. Because we outside. And we just as petty as the last style bender. Fool. Yeah. Peace.